So when I think about marketing metas, I think about airdrops as the original marketing meta. Basically, the marketing metas are trying to figure out how do we reward contributions to our protocol? How do we thank our users or incentivize people to join and be part of this story that we're building together? When I talk about Web 2 versus Web 3, Web 2 was a numbers game. If you can get your unit economics to work in terms of purchasing traffic and then converting that traffic, like you win. Right. Web 3 is kind of the opposite. You have a very, very small top of funnel, right? In Web 2, your potential top of funnel is everybody on Earth that is connected to the internet. In Web 3, your top of the funnel is probably a couple million people. When you're closed, you get to select your members, which I think is really, really important for early community design. That ensures that the people that join are the right people, and B, and more importantly, B, which people don't think about, is you minimize the chances that people don't get value from your community.
GM, warm welcome to the very first episode of OGC Podcast. On-Chain Growth Club is a new show that talks to founders and crypto growth leaders, and the goal is to dive into what moves crypto, what moves Web3, and learn together and explore crypto growth and elevate it to a dedicated discipline. And I'm very excited to have an OG crypto growth person here today, who is a founder and a growth leader. So couldn't be a better fit. So welcome to the show, Justin.
Really glad to be here. Thanks, Norman, for having me.
Yes. I'm excited to kick off the series with you. We've been chatting a couple of times in the past, and very happy that you're joining as the first guest. So the idea is, I'll give you a minute to chat about yourself, to give us a little bit of background about you as a person, as well as Safary, and then we're going to kick it off. So take it away.
So I'm Justin. I'm co-founder of Safary. Safary began as the first community of Web3 growth leaders back in January 2022. Since then, we've expanded into building out our own tech platform, which is a customer data platform for both B2C and B2B crypto teams. And then most recently, we launched our Safary certification, which is our first crypto marketing course. And so we've had two cohorts now, around 300 people across the two cohorts. The TLDR on Safary is the crypto's growth ecosystem. And our goal is to help you grow with our knowledge, our network, and our platform.
Really cool. Yeah, we're going to unpack all of this, and we're going to dive into the certification program and the community building you guys do, and what you're seeing in the growth stack out there. But before we do, I came up with a little opener or like icebreaker exercise here that I want to make a tradition for these conversations. So you're the first one that I'm testing this with. So the format is this or that. I'm going to give you a couple of pairs, so two terms, and you just pick one or the other. You have to pick one. I mean, I guess let's say you can skip 2 times. Okay, no, there's no controversial stuff. So you cannot skip. You have to pick one. All right, let me start. All right, Justin. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning person or night owl?
Absolute night owl.
You've been messaging me in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Yes.
I can confirm. NYC or SF?
Ooh, that one's controversial. San Francisco.
Podcast or book?
Podcast.
Remote or office?
Remote.
Pickleball or paddle tennis?
Neither.
You have to pick one.
I haven't played either.
Which one would you play? Which one would you try?
Pickleball.
All right. TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram.
Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Ethereum.
Infra or consumer?
Consumer.
Speed or consensus?
Speed.
Discord or Telegram?
Telegram.
Twitter or LinkedIn?
Twitter.
Tokens or equity?
For that I would want to have or that I would want to give?
Tokens or equity?
Tokens.
Data or intuition?
Data.
Exclusive or open?
Exclusive.
Community or software?
Community.
All right, amazing. That was interesting. I don't know. Do you want to pick one and expand a little bit? I mean, I think community or software. I mean, this is, I'm asking this for a reason because I think it's quite fascinating that you guys, you're building an analytics platform, which is kind of your main product. But then it just seems that your community building is just taking off so much, and like you're I think like a lot more visible around that, which is I guess the purpose of it all. So yeah, can you share some thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say a couple things. Like one, if we think about long term and now even, there are very, very few good communities out there. And everyone wants to be part of a good community. And I'm not even just talking about crypto, right? Just like in life in general, everyone wants to be part of a community, whatever that community is about. People want to be around people that they like. They want to join new social experiences and meet other good people. That's just, I feel like, a core tenet of being human. And then on the other side, we have software, right? And software over the course of the last like 20 years has gotten easier and easier to build. And so we're going to have more and more software products. So I find this, right? I say community because one, we've had a lot of success building communities, and Safary is not my first rodeo building communities either. In a past life, in my first job, worked at a mock interview startup that built a hiring marketplace. But at the core of this company was a community-led growth strategy that I just sort of like happened my way into. So back in 2017, 2018, I was building a community of like 10,000 developers on Discord. So I had this background of seeing the magic of what a great community can do for a software product. Um, and that was like a really like core secret sauce of that business. And so like replicating it now, 7 years later, still trendy. But yeah, I'd say, I lean more community because I think that it's hard to do. Once you do it, you start seeing the benefits, the flywheel starts moving. And it's really hard to replicate. If our competitors have successfully replicated a great community in crypto, none of our competitors, when we were doing that hiring startup back in 2017, we're able to replicate it. It's really magic of like culture, the people that you get in early, and the brand that you built around it. So in contrast to software where we've seen data moats have been able to disappear, other moats have been able to disappear. Product market fit is not forever. You can get it and you can lose it. Community, if you do it right and you run a consistent playbook, lasts a lot longer. So
Yeah.
we can definitely show that great software products have come and gone, but Safari's community has stayed dominant over the last 4 years.
Yeah. Honestly, like I'm following it, partially as a community participant, but also from afar. And I think it's fascinating. It looks like a true case study that people can learn from, like how you guys roll this out. So very, very fascinated by this. With that being said, so you're super plugged in. You're talking to hundreds. I mean, how many? I think you said it the other day. Like you talked to 1,000 crypto marketing people in person, one on one, and you're estimating that there's like 5,000 out there. Is that kind of the numbers that you're looking at?
Yeah, we've had I'd say maybe it depends on like who you'd say is a crypto marketer. There are probably, I would say, 5,000 people that have been employed full time in a crypto marketing job, I would estimate, but there are probably maybe 5,000 more that like want to be employed in a crypto
Mm-hmm.
marketing job and are actively following the space and trying to get their foot in. For Safari Club, if it's any indication, we've had over 6,000 people apply to Safari Club. Which is our private community of around 300 top crypto marketers. So some of those 6,000 are founders and other roles, but that sort of gives you an indication of, if the majority of growth leaders out there know Safari today, and 6,000 have applied, maybe that means that 4,000 of the 5,000 have applied to Safari
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
far.
And what I want to touch on with you first is, can you? So I feel like you're one of the people in the space that really have like a very strong meta view on the whole industry, essentially, specifically the marketing / growth bubble. Can you walk us through a couple of mental models or frameworks, and maybe even to like a Web 2 person, a Web 2 marketing person, whatever? Like how do you describe the current the current crypto growth space? Like how do you frame it? How do you slice and dice it? How do you see it?
Yeah, for a non-crypto person, when I talk about for a non-crypto marketing person, when I talk to other marketing people outside the space, my mental model for crypto marketing is it's just a very stripped down version of Web2 marketing. So Web2 marketing is all about building the top of the funnel, right? How do we get as much traffic as possible directed to our website with a multi-channel strategy and slowly over time convert that traffic into a smaller, into some amount, right? So you're running paid ads, SEO, organic, all these different channels, programmatic, you name it, and you have all this traffic and you're trying to convert that traffic. So it's a numbers game, basically. When I talk about Web 2 versus Web 3, Web 2 was a numbers game. If you can get your unit economics to work in terms of purchasing traffic and then converting that traffic, like you win, right? Web 3 is kind of the opposite, right? You have a very, very small top of funnel, right? In Web 2, your potential top of funnel is everybody on Earth that is connected to the internet. In Web 3, your top of the funnel is probably a couple million people, right? Max top of funnel. And so in this world, you basically have a very small top of funnel. You have a very wide middle funnel, which we call the fat patty as our like middle framework. So you have like a small bun on top, you have a wide bun in the middle, and then at the bottom you also have a small bun. Um, and so the that's like the weird crypto funnel, and the reason why it's small at the top because you don't have that many potential users to draw from. It's small at the bottom because a lot of companies in crypto don't have a bottom of the funnel conversion event, or it's delayed. So, like for example, if you're an infrastructure project that hasn't launched, you're a marketer that's trying to market to a small amount of people, but you don't have a chain yet, so you can't convert somebody at the bottom. So your only option is to do stuff in the middle. And so that's how we think about things. It's a different, if the shape of the funnel is very different because the constraints of crypto marketing are very different. So in a world where you have a delayed or tiny bottom of the funnel, then a lot of companies can only focus on the top of the funnel. So that the top of the funnel would be like Mindshare, right? Two, Mindshare only matters insofar as it converts to market share. You get,
Mhm.
people to convert, they do the thing you want. Web3, you have no potential to get market share because you have no conversion event. Then the only thing that you can judge success on is mind share at the top of the
Mhm.
funnel with a small amount of people. So it's fundamentally just a different game that we find ourselves playing in crypto today. Um,
And in terms of like, let's call it traffic sources, channels, initiatives, or something, what are like the top things that come to mind that people do these days? So what channels do they tap into? What initiatives do they run to create this mind share, to drive traffic into this fat patty? And yeah, I mean, this is kind of leading to my next questions, which is marketing metas, which you've tweeted about lately. So yeah, can you share like your view on what drives attention and what drives traffic these days?
Yeah, I think that it's two things, right? On one hand, we have the InfoFi meta, which I'm sure that we'll get into in the next question. So I'll save all my thoughts there. That's sort of in every arc of crypto, there's a game that everyone starts playing. The game that everyone's starting to play or has been playing essentially since the beginning of this year is the InfoFi meta. So we'll put that aside to this for a second. The other piece is how do you gain attention in closed door rooms, right? That's the secondary game that's being played. And I'd argue largely plays out in a completely different arena than the InfoFi game. The InfoFi game is out in public. How do you get as much like traffic and knowledge generated about you as possible? And then there's the behind closed door game where you become a infamous team. You're either, and this is why I think community building is important. Either you're networking like crazy through community, to get in front of influential people or people that might become influential in the future, or you are actively running BD to get in front of those people today. So there are a lot of strong teams that are doing this with events, other types of like inbound, outbound, trying to basically stir the fabric of a group of people that is important, that has influence over their business. So I said these are the two games that we see playing out in terms of how do you get influence and how do you get mind share that converts to something that is ultimately relevant for your business in crypto.
So is it I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit, to be honest. There was a lot of info in there. So is it some like to put it, I'm trying to put it in different words. Is it a little bit like is it B2C versus B2B ultimately? No, not
I'd
really,
say
right?
like the overall question is how do you get influence, right? You can get influence by having people start to see you on the main dominant social channel watering hole that we all find ourselves on, which is Twitter, right? That's kind of the InfoFi game of people start to hear your name passed around a lot more. And then there's the, how do we tell our story to the people that matter who then talk about us in closed door meetings
Cool.
behind the scenes.
Yeah. Honestly, like I know who I want to talk to with this podcast, but I'm not sure like who's going to end up listening to it. So I'm trying to like capture a couple of different audiences here. And I think even within Twitter, I don't think like InfoFi is like a super common term if you're not like deeply exposed to the marketing bubble. So I think, yeah, why don't you unpack it a little bit and yeah, talk about the weaks and strengths and where it's headed, if it's even still a thing. And I guess yeah, just for framing it, maybe tie it to the different other marketing metas that we had in the past so people are kind of aware why this matters.
Yeah. So when I think about marketing metas, I think about airdrops as the original marketing meta. Basically, the marketing metas are trying to figure out how do we reward contributions to our protocol? How do we thank our users or incentivize people to join and be part of this story that we're building together? So airdrops were the most simple. It's basically we reward the people that have used our protocol on chain, right? That's like the most like simple action that people came up with. Then the next meta that we see is the quest meta. So quests where we want to incentivize people to use our protocol and we want them to do mostly social posts about us. Twitter is the dominant social channel, and so we want people to post about us on socials. And if you do that, then follow us, retweet, etc., then we give you tokens. And that was all well and good, but people realized that, you know, you incentivized a lot of people who didn't have the network reach that you wanted them to have. And so you got a lot of like bot like activity in exchange for like giving them money. The next one to come along was points. So points were like, that kind of spammy stuff that we did with quests. We don't want to do that anymore. We want people to actually do on-chain actions because we think that that is what matters and ultimately contributes to the success of a protocol. So people started rewarding a lot of like on-chain stuff. You connect your wallet here, you do this action, then you get points. Those points later convert into and then now we're in the InfoFi wave, which is to say, hey, well, what happened with points like wasn't really that real either because people just, created all these wallets and did all these automated actions and then they got tokens, but like that didn't further growth, right? And so what actually matters is having influential people talk about you on Twitter, and that's what drives growth. And InfoFi, I think, started genuinely positive of there were high quality creators that were getting rewarded for their contributions, but I'd say at this point in time in the meta, 7 8 months in, it's basically descended into like AI slop, so like low quality engagement again. And we kind of see this with every marketing meta is that it starts high quality, they incentivize the right people, but over time, people learn how to game the system. And as they game the system, then the system ultimately breaks down and then the meta ends. So I wouldn't say that we are I don't think that InfoFi is over now, but I would say that certainly the last few months have been sufficient FUD for the InfoFi meta that it feels like it's dying and that we're on the precipice of something new. So like if we look back at each of these metas, we have like first on-chain action only, very simple. Then like social, very simple. Then points was like kind of a mixture of the two. And now InfoFi is social, but higher quality than quests. So that makes me think that whatever comes next will be a reaction to InfoFi, like each of these metas have been a reaction to what came before. So my take would be that the next meta, whatever comes, will be some combination of trying to reward higher quality, complex on-chain actions with some social influence, or maybe just on-chain actions that are more complex than what we saw with points.
It seems to me that these metas, the ones that you just described, and this like timeline essentially, do they? I feel like they always follow one specific business model or type of product. Like I think they only. I feel like they only capture like a certain part of crypto, right? They don't target ecosystem growth really. I mean, I probably there's been quests for like developers or whatever, but can you maybe like think of, just for the listeners who are not super deep into this, like, and also for myself, what are all of these ultimately trying to achieve? Like, can you decode this? Like, what's the ultimate goal where people like to trial and error? What are the metrics that people benchmark these metas against?
Yeah, I would say that ultimately these metas are trying to drive growth, right? And our understanding of what drives growth in crypto is changing. So in the past, with these earlier metas, like with Quest, right, people thought the underlying assumption was that what happens on Twitter, making things look good in terms of like, if we have 100,000 Twitter followers, if we have a lot of activity on our Twitter, that's what drives growth, right? That was the underlying assumption that led to the meta coming about. And so we see that with different types of things. Points as well. What drives growth is having a lot of transactions on our protocol by a lot of users. Whether those users are real or not is, like an open question. But if people see that there's a lot of activity on our protocol, that's what drives growth. And I think that in the beginning of each meta, they're correct that the action they're trying to incentivize drives growth. But as we get to the middle and the end of the meta, that is no longer true. And so that's why a new meta has to come, because people say, actually, no, that doesn't seem like that drives growth anymore, or it stops driving growth. It did initially at the beginning, and then it's not at the end. And so that's why a new meta needs to be prompted. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we have a bunch more things to discuss. So very short, last one on this. Any early signs, any early experiments that you're seeing that are interesting and could turn into a new meta, if you're looking into the future?
I think that, the other thing that we've seen drive the metas is a specific company has really driven a certain meta, right? So like Uniswap, in my opinion, drove the airdrop meta. There were airdrops that happened before Uniswaps, but that was like the landmark one that like set this meta into motion. Blast for sure drove the points program meta. I would say a combination of Kaido and Berachain together drove this InfoFi meta. Like Berachain was the first, had massive mindshare, and then was one of the first projects to launch on Kaido. So I'd say together they drove this InfoFi meta. And so I think that the rubric or the plans for what the next meta could look like are clear to me, is like what I described of it's going to be high quality on-chain actions with potentially some element of InfoFi built into it. But which is the company that's going to incept that next meta? I'm not, who knows, right? That's anyone's guess. But that's
Yeah,
definitely what I would say is going to be the thing to look out for.
super interesting. I'm noticing that 30-minute episodes fly by really quickly. So let's move on. The next thing I wanted to, as mentioned at the beginning, I want to double click a little bit on is your community building and also the recent certification that you've launched. Do you want to share what has worked for you? Like, do you want to unpack a little bit how you guys ended up building that mode and like some learnings along the way? So again, just as a refresher, you guys are running a software business, and then you've built this amazing community that is, I think, like second to none out there. So yeah, curious to hear how long have you been building it, and what were the key milestones and the key learnings on the journey of Safary Club?
Yeah, so we've been building it just over 3.5 years. So we launched it February 1st, 2022. Now we're recording this episode August 7th, 2025. So yeah, basically 3.5 years
Now you're putting
exactly.
pressure on me to upload this really quickly, but that's good.
Some of this, well, a lot of what I'm talking about is timeless, unless when you upload this, InfoFi is already dead. So we'll see. So we've been running it 3.5 years. I'd say with all communities, the members that you get in first really define what comes next in terms of the reputation of your community. I think this is the piece that makes it really difficult to replicate, is we had a very, very strong group of people in the first couple batches.
And that was like a Telegram group or Discord, or like where does this community live?
This community lived on Discord for the first year and a half of its life. So was Discord the first year and a half, Telegram the last 2 years. But the thing that we did differently about our community from the very beginning is a lot of the communities, and this is similar advice to the marketing metas. The marketing metas are each a reaction to what happened before. So our community was also a reaction to how other people had structured their communities before. So at that time, communities that we saw were on Discord. They were very heavily text-based. They were completely open. This is the DAO era, basically, right? And they were absolute chaos to manage. So you had 15 Discord moderators moderating different languages, and it was just a whole mess. And you had all sorts of tools, absolute disaster. And so I was like, I want to build a community, basically for me, right? I'm a marketer by trade. I want to meet other marketers. I'm gonna build a community for me, but this community has to be something that only I can manage. We were a bootstrap team, 2 co-founders, so I was like, I can't hire 15 moderators, right? We're not gonna raise 100 million ICO and run a community. So as a result of that, we had to make different community design decisions than what others had done. Others were open, we were going to be closed. Others were text-based, we were going to be audio-based. These are two very distinct design choices that we made in the beginning that I think have sort of shaped the trajectory that we're on. The biggest two being one, closed. When you're closed, you get to select your members, which I think is really, really important for early community design. That ensures that A, the people that join are the right people, and B, and more importantly, B, which people don't think about, is you minimize the chances that people don't get value from your community. So if I select growth leaders to join a growth community, then I have high certainty that they're going to get value. Versus if a developer joins my growth community, they might be like, yeah, that was interesting, but it wasn't useful to me at all, right? And so that person, when somebody's asked the developer about Safary, they're like, yeah, I mean, it was whatever, right? I want the people in my community that are most likely to get value. And if you get value, then you're more likely to talk positively about that place to other people. So exclusive is good for minimizing the people who wouldn't get value.
I think curation is probably the right term in what you're doing really good here. Yeah, so the last one, and we're almost out of time, but the last one I wanted to touch on is the recent certification program that you launched, and maybe, I'm sure we're going to see each other again sometime, and we'll bring you on again. But just very briefly, so you launched a certification program, which is kind of an educational offering for people, which I think is not curated or kind of open. So curious to hear what made you launch the Safari certification program, and how it's been going so far.
Definitely. Yeah, our initial, I think that one thing that is a challenge that we had on the software side is we wanted to build software that helps move the industry forward. So build software that we think helps marketers do marketing in the way that we think marketing should be done, if that makes sense, rather than where the market might be today. So I think that our competitors, to their credit, built software that matched what people wanted, right? That were doing things that were maybe a little bit spammy or, low quality marketing, but were ultimately much more successful than us because they matched the needs of the current market versus we tried to be like, this is where marketing should be going. And so we're going to build software for that. And so our crypto marketing course essentially is us trying to right that wrong of we are going to teach marketers how to do marketing the way that we think marketing should be done that elevates crypto as an industry and thus match our product to it, right? So if more marketers do and know how to do marketing the right way, then ultimately, A, the space will be better, but B, they'll be able to use our software in the way that it was intended to be used rather than doing this marketing over here, which doesn't move the industry forward and which our competitors largely play in. So it's kind of like moving the meta in our own direction. We have the credibility to build a better marketing ecosystem and teach people how to do things the right way. And so that's what we're doing with it. But it's also been an interesting experimentation on the community side, as you laid out, right? So Safary Club, for those who don't know, has always been free, but just like very, very highly curated. So we accept 80 people per year, and that is like its own experience. The Safary certification is basically a higher quality, shorter version of Safary Club, but you pay. So currently the price is $500 per participant. We'll probably increase that for cohort 3. We've seen no shortage of demand. We basically doubled the price from cohort 1 to cohort 2, and had no shortage of participants in cohort 2 compared to cohort 1. And so yeah, I mean, I've lost my train of thought a little bit here, but I would say that the certification is designed to help people get better at doing marketing the way that we think marketing should ultimately be done in crypto.
Yeah, and I think I mean, it also seems to be a great starting point for people that want to build their career in crypto, that want to transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So yeah, I think what you guys do with that community is amazing, and is a big, I think, a big influence on the growth space for sure, but I think also the broader industry over time. Actually, one piece of content that you guys put out that also was super helpful for me to navigate through is the Web3 growth stack, where we're exploring all the tools out there, even research all the fundings for each sector, etc. So, personal question: is there going to be a new updated version coming at some point?
Probably yes. I've been
It's
kind
a
of
lot of
waiting
work,
to
I can
see
imagine.
it's a lot of work, but I think it's also about what is the right narrative to set at what point in time. I
Yeah.
think that the truth of the matter is that the companies in the marketing stack have not been as successful as one might have hoped that they would. It
Mm-hmm.
sort of in the first couple of years mirrored the Web 2 stack in that it's like quick ascent of a lot of
Mm.
funding, a lot of different companies, but the majority of these companies have been unsuccessful. I would say that we've been in a tight circle of companies that are direct and indirect competitors to us that have survived, basically, but those from distinct other categories have basically largely been invalidated. So, like Web3 loyalty, for example, there was a lot of funding that went into Web3 loyalty companies, Web3 messaging companies, and these categories have basically been completely unsuccessful.
Yeah.
So I think that is, I'm waiting also for the metas to turn to publish more things rather than saying, there used to be 200 companies, now, 100 of them have died.
I see where you're coming from. That's probably smart. Yeah, we have to wrap it up, Justin. I'm trying to stay within 30 minutes so people can listen to the stuff on their commute. I could certainly continue talking to you for a lot longer. Any final thoughts? Any final things you want to share? Anything people should check out before we wrap this up?
No, I think that we covered most of it. I think that community could probably be its own subject for another time. And I think we've learned a lot of interesting things about Safari certifications community that are very, very different from Safari Club's community
Cool.
in very positive ways. So maybe a part 2
Maybe
on
we'll
that
do like a
another time.
blueprint case study type of deep dive on sometime.
For
Amazing.
sure.
Thanks so much, Justin, for being part of that. I'm excited to have chatted with you, and yeah, we'll catch up soon. And I hope people enjoyed that first episode. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.